All right, welcome to the studio. I'm going to be doing a really fun exercise today where I'm going to be painting this portrait of Don Draper, but very simply, with very simple shapes to show you how little you actually need to communicate face in a portrait, and also just to show you what is most important, because I feel like a lot of people don't get this. I didn't get this for a long time, and getting it will make your portrait painting a lot easier and make things go a lot smoother. So if you're new to the channel, then welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I help thousands of students every single month get better at oil painting through my online courses and tutorials. And today I just have a Fredericks panel, 9x12, nothing expensive. Put a wash of ivory black and yellow ochre on it with paint thinner, whites with paper towel. Did it yesterday, so it's dry. My palette, I got ivory black, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and titanium white. And this is pretty much like the Zorn palette plus crimson and burnt sienna. On the Zorn palette, extremely helpful when it comes to painting portraits because you kind of automatically desaturate the colors, because yellow is a desaturated yellow, ivory black is a desaturated blue. And a lot of times with students' portraits, I see like a lot of too vibrant oranges or too vibrant purples in the shadows. So that's going to help a lot. And just got some paint thinner here. I'm using brushes from my brush set. This is just a number 4 flat brush. Got some paper towels here, and we are good to go. Now, I already have it drawn in. I just used some thin paint, like a little bit of ivory black mixed with cad red. Drew it in using my proportional divider to get some key measurements and then kind of freehand it from there. If you struggle with drawing, if you're like, Chris, like I can't even get to this stage, like my drawing's always inaccurate, doesn't look like the person, I don't know what I'm doing, I can help you with that because I actually have a full free drawing demonstration where I'll show you how I use this, how I get measurements, and you'll get to see in real time me drawing in a portrait. If you want to check that out, there's a link to it in the description of this video. But it is time for us to start painting. Now, what I like to do is I like to block out the face into light and shadow. So that's what I'm going to do first. And when I do the shadow, I don't want the darkest value that I can. That's going to come a little later. So I'm going to get some ivory black, cad red, yellow ochre. I'm going to make definitely a dark value, but not the darkest I can by any means. And what I'm going to do is just block out, I'm going to squint my eyes and look at the shadow shapes here and just simplify what I am seeing. And using a big brush like this, like a number 4, it's going to really help keep you thinking big. And the more you do this, the easier it's going to get for you. The more you're going to pick up on tendencies and common things that happen in every single portrait. Even over here, I'm just gonna got some shadow. It's best even, like I know this doesn't seem that dark in there, but it's always best to err on the side of too dark than too light. You can always add in lights. It's harder to add in darks or harder to go back in darkening values. So it's just easier to build dark to light. Now I'm gonna move to the hair, which is darker, pushing some more black, making sure I'm getting enough paint on my brush so that this goes nice and quickly. And this isn't going to be like a full finished polished painting. It's just going to be an exercise, but I think, as I said before, you're going to be surprised at how much is communicated with so little when you know what to communicate. Just getting this in very simply, nothing special going on here, just kind of coloring inside the lines. Okay, I got the hair in. Now I want to go in and work the darkest dark. So I can actually take the same color and areas that I see are darker, I'm just going to work that right in there. And if you pay attention to the areas that you're putting in, you'll notice all the darkest areas are the areas that are deepest in, like inside the eyes here. You can also push this underneath. So just coming back in. Don't ever feel like you can't go back a step. There are no real concrete steps with oil painting. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, you know, dark to light, light to dark. Like I actually want to come back to the previous value, and I could probably bring that down just a little bit. A little bit of my trusty paper towel with paint thinner, just making sure I got that angle right. So I got shadow, I got darkest dark. Now let's put in a light. Now, when I do this, I don't want to put in the lightest light that I can. Like this light's, I'm just looking at the forehead here. there's this light and that light. This is definitely lighter than that. So I wouldn't want to start with that. I always say darkest light that you can. That way you can build to lighter values. So if I just get some crimson, yellow ochre, touch of the ivory black, should get me to where I want to be. Yeah, something like that. I just want to go in, fill this in. There'll be time in a minute to change colors and get values and all that good stuff. Still using a big brush too, except a little more paint. And even areas like the lips here, I know the lips are a different color, but I'm just going to still block them in with this light value. It's just going to help keep me on track, help keep things organized. If you ever get like lost or confused while you're painting or just overwhelmed, doing this step will help a lot. Just notice that I probably could have brought that hair down a little bit. Let's bring that down. So we have our face broken down into light, into shadow. Now comes the really fun part, because now we can start to find things within these, and we can also start getting more specific with shapes and edges. Actually, it's gonna simplify that. I think bring that down like that. Let's dial in that a little bit more. All right. So got light, got shadow, darkest dark. Let's put in the lightest light. Let's get these shapes in. So if I get some white, yellow ochre, a little bit of crimson, I'm just gonna block these out real quick. Real simple, not taking my brush off the canvas, trying to create big shapes. See one there, one there. Also, like I see this light, it's uniform right down the center, because think of the head like an egg, like a sphere. You got the shadow, and there's gonna be an area where it gets light and then it starts getting dark again. And so I see that here. Definitely catches on the cheek, because this cheek is like a shelf. Kind of pull up this. You see that right there? It's more of like a shelf opposed to a wall. I always think of planes like either walls or shelves. And since it's a shelf, you can see it's catching more light than this right here. Same thing is happening right there. That's why it's really helpful to do the work on the planes of the face. Actually see it just kind of carried right down into there. A little bit there. It gets less as it comes down further. And then the nose, different planes of the nose. There you go. But you can see just doing this, like how much is communicated, like how much form. Like I know it's not super pretty, but like it's still working. Looks a lot like Superman right now. But here we can now start doing some really fun stuff, because we have bright is bright, but we could find transitions between this value and that value and make things a little more natural, a little smoother. So I'm going to try and find a value that's between these two. Maybe something like that. You know, it's still darker than the lightest light, but it's a little lighter. And I can also start working color shifts. And it's hard to see here. It's a lot easier to see here that there's a color shift. With stubble, it turns cooler and grayer. Sometimes that seems purpler or sometimes greener. I feel like this goes a little green. You can even see it right there. So I can actually get some yellow ochre and ivory black. Kind of push that. Just have this slight color shift. And if you have to paint over some you already did, like I'm going to paint over this highlight here, that's okay. A lot of times I'll paint in stuff like those highlights just to like help me see things better. But you can see just that color shift here kind of helps portray that stubble a little bit. And I can actually push it even more up here. I'll show you. Because if you get the ivory black and the yellow ochre, it mixes into like a green, because if you think of the black like a blue, blue and yellow make green. So you can kind of see where I'm going here. Whoop. See, I almost said a little more blue, but it's black, but that's how I'm thinking about it. And you can push a little bit of it into there. And I could probably go a little bit brighter within that. Kind of like that. Now let's work some more transitions. Like here is definitely lighter. The main reason I wanted to do this exercise and the way that I'm doing it, you know, I kind of really wanted you to focus in on this aspect because I feel like, I've come to learn that when teaching painting to students, a lot better to trying to teach one thing at a time. And if I'm trying to teach like drawing and planes and all this stuff all at once, it's not going to stick or you're going to get overwhelmed. You just got to kind of take it one thing at a time. So I'm going to actually work transitions here. Now this is actually this like area that's kind of orangey almost. Definitely want to get that in. Some yellow, cad red, some black. Get a really warm value here. Because this area here, it's not nearly as light as over here. I'll push a little more yellow. See like a transitional kind of shape right there. But I'm also seeing that I could probably go even lighter within the light that I already blocked out. So if I get some white, crimson, yellow ochre, and just go a little bit lighter this time and put it in the center. Just like here, a little bit bigger there, a little there, same there. And then again, coming down, I'm going to lessen it, like knock it back with some of these surrounding colors. Not nearly as bright right here. You can always go back to dark too, but actually I'm going to get some, let's get this here in lighter. Something also that I really like to do, whenever there's a white shirt, I like getting it in, get some white, get kind of some of these other colors here, because it's not going to be pure white, kind of grabbing some of these from the face. A little more yellow. I don't know, getting this in, it just helps you relate your other values. This looks cool. Get a little black, cool it down a bit. Yeah, something like that. Let's talk a little bit about color shift. Let's do this mouth. So the top lip is always going to be darker than the bottom lip. And so I can kind of get some red, ivory black here. First, so that part's dark, it's very thin, but then this next part gets lighter because the lip turns, like this part here. Get a little bit lighter. It's facing the light more. This light's coming from the left side, and this is facing left. You see like how knowing these things, it allows you to be very simple with your brushwork and like how you communicate it when you know things like that. Like, okay, I'm going to change the value for the turn of that lip there. Boom, then it works. Now there is like some skin before you get to the stubble here, like here. Soften the transition. Now the bottom lip acts more like a shelf than a wall. Top lip is more like a wall. So this is going to be a little lighter. I'm going to let the color blend right into the skin here. A lot of people they kind of like outline their lips, and you don't want that. It kind of just blends right into the skin there, and it gets darker as it goes to the right. That's the shadowed side of the face. So I'm also having that value change. A lot of things, like I know I'm talking a lot here and got to go over a lot of things. There's just like a lot of things you can learn about the face, like, what I was just talking about with the mouth, that really help you and really help you see more. Actually, the whole kind of through line or theme of my portrait course is learning to like break it down, and it's like a complex skill, paint and portrait, and be able to break it down into sub skills and focusing on one at a time. Like now I'm going to a mid-tone. And even though I'm not going to be taking this to completion, you already know how I'm going to do it, because I'm just going to be doing the same things that I've been doing, just getting more and more specific as I go and paying closer and closer attention to smaller shapes and like dialing in value changes better. Like this here could be lighter. It's still dark, but I could lighten it a little bit. Also working edges, like I have a really harsh edge right here. Same here. Maybe I don't want that. Work my edges. It's actually going to be hard for me to like stop working on this. I didn't want this video to be super long. I want it to be short and to the point. It's hard to step away. Like, I'm not going to do the eyes. Now I am using a small brush here now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to show you before I stop. I feel like everything's working pretty well. Again, like, I mean, I see a ton of things I could do, and maybe like kind of lighten up more of that. It's all about adjustments. Things like, if I want to come back to dark, if I want to maybe darken this edge just to show the turn of the plane a little bit more. A lot of times people don't communicate that. They don't make it get darker. They make the face look wider than it should be. And they're like, why does my face look too wide? And they'll like check their measurements, like, oh, it's all measured right and everything, but they just didn't communicate like a plane change that would have helped. Okay, I need to find a stopping point here soon. All right, I'll show you the hair too, real quick. Really simple. Ivory black, yellow ochre. The lights in the hair are not that light, but I can see, like here, a little red. Don't really see much on the other side. I push a little more red. Just use a smaller brush here. I like the transition from hair to skin. My finger to kind of blend in a little bit. All right, last thing is I can push a little more into this nose. Put that there. Sometimes like the littlest shapes can like do so much, like right here. Getting a lighter shape, not super light, but just enough to kind of indicate that push back in. Sometimes that's all you need. So that is about it for this demo. Hope that this helped you see portraits differently. Hopefully it made you less intimidated by them when you see like kind of how simply they can be made up by just these simple shapes, and knowing where to place things and how to think about the face, most importantly. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting.